Trust Psyche, the podcast. Integrating archetypal astrology and depth psychology. I'm Jessica DiRuzza, MFT, a psychotherapist, astrologer, and teacher. I have an online psychotherapy practice that includes astrology with individuals and couples, and along with my husband, Travis DiRuzza, PhD, we run Trust Psyche School of Astrology and Depth Psychology. Travis does archetypal astrology readings, counseling, and astrological mentoring. You can follow us on Instagram at trust.psyche, find us on our YouTube channel, Trust Psyche, and learn more on our website, trustpsyche.com. Thank you so much for being here with us. We hope you enjoy this episode. At the core of an astrology reading is a person being seen, having their life make sense for them. I don't know any human being who doesn't have a fundamental need to be seen, to be valued and appreciated for who they uniquely are. I don't know any human being that doesn't need to feel held in their life, supported, guided, empowered, to live a life full of courage and love and compassion. I don't know any human being that doesn't have a need for their life to make sense, to have a sense of purpose, to feel embedded and connected to something larger than themselves. I think because of all of these very real human needs that we share as a species, astrology can touch so many of those needs. A really good astrology reading gives a human being a lot of the needs that they have. A really good astrology reading helps make a person feel affirmed in their life, in their past decisions, in their current decisions, and in their future decisions. It supports a person making sense of who they are and where they come from and where they're going. It can provide a certain level of certainty in a very uncertain world and during very uncertain times. That there is a fundamental ordering principle to the cosmos. That we live in a meaningful cosmos that is interconnected. That yes, the divine does exist. And yes, you are divine and you are a part of the divine. You are divine. And you are a part of the divine, a meaningful part, a unique and meaningful part that has a purpose, and that you are here for a reason and you are meant to be here. It's not an accident that you're here. It's not an accident the world is here. It's not an accident that any of this is happening. All of it. The beauty and the pain. All of it. The gifts and the challenges. All of it. The noble and the unnoble. All of it. The life-enhancing and life-destroying. All of it. All of you. All of life. And within that, we have choices. We live in a beautifully paradoxical realm where there is both fate and free will, where there is both a sense of destiny and a sense of co-creation and discovery, that things can change and do, and that we evolve and we grow and we learn. And there's these endless opportunities within this earth realm to learn and grow. And it's a big part of why we're here, is to learn and grow. And to refine our experience of being human and all of its complexities and nuances. And that we get to at the same time be different from one another and share commonalities. That a lot of our learning and our growth is stretching ourselves to hold greater and greater levels of paradox. That two things at the same time can be simultaneously true while being completely different or opposite. A really good reading holds the complexities and the nuances and the paradoxes of life and deeply affirms the human in front of you, the soul whose chart you're reading, as a process of remembrance, to support that person to remember who they are in the clearest way possible, in the most loving and kind way possible, and by doing so, honoring the challenges in their life, the suffering in their life, the things that are hard or problematic, the places of confusion or even despair, because that's part of being human. We all live with distortions that happen because of all kinds of things. Our conditioning, our family, relationships we've been in, whatever happened in our childhood, because of who we were told who we were, or how we are, or who we should be, or because we live in a world that wants us to believe that there is a finite number of ways to be, and if you are anything but that, you are deviant. We could point to so many things. And that is why a really good astrology reading, is a safe and sacred therapeutic space to truly get to be yourself and all of the differences and complexities of your being. The many different parts of self and the many different parts of psyche. No one of us is just one person. No one of us is just one way. We have so many different parts. We're living in so many different mythologies. And we're so many different people with the different people in our lives and in the different settings that we're in, and different parts of us come out in those different relationships and contexts. And a really good reading can affirm that, can show us that, can validate that, can normalize that. A really good reading normalizes who we are while also empowering us to become better and to open up options and choices and perspectives on just exactly how we can become better. Because every single one of us can become a better human. We can do better. I can do better. You can do better. We can all do better.
That's part of being here and that learning and that growing. And a really good reading helps us do better by both seeing ourselves more clearly and also helping us see the world more clearly. When we have clarity, we can make different kinds of choices. And we all need help getting out of our egos. We all need help getting out of our own way. We all need help seeing ourselves from another vantage point. And a vantage point that I hope the astrologer is bringing from a place of compassion, loving kindness, empathy, but also has the courage to speak the truth that they're seeing. And that's not always an easy thing to do. A really good reading speaks truth, but does so in a way that is non-directive, that doesn't give advice or tell the client what to do. And that is a nuanced place. I'm going to tell you what I see about you and what I know about you from what I know about your chart. But I'm going to do so in a way that is open-handed and doesn't presume that I know what's best for you, because I don't know what's best for you. But I can tell you what I see and what I've seen based on the planetary configurations in your chart and my knowledge of the way that they work, especially psychologically, the tendencies that they have, the commonalities that they have, and the variations that they have. The more I understand the wide range of spectrum of expression that these energies can have, the more that I can show you the different spectrums of yourself and facets of yourself. I think that this is what in part gives an astrologer a lot of power, because a really good reading can touch someone's life so deeply that it can change the course of their life. It gives a lot of power to the astrologer. And I think part of the ethics of being an astrologer is constantly reminding ourselves of that power that we carry. And having humility and humbling ourselves in knowing that just because we have that power doesn't mean we know everything or we know what's best for the other person. While at the same time reflecting and questioning and asking ourselves, how am I using that power today? Am I using it for good? Am I reminding myself that I too am human? Because when I stay close to my own suffering and my own challenges and my own truths, my hard-earned, hard-won truths, it makes it much, much easier for me to do that with humility with the people that I'm reading for. A really good astrologer reads more than a chart. They read all of life. Reading is not limited to birth charts. It never has been. We read people, we read psyche, we read symbols, we read dreams, we read tarot, we read whatever it is that we can. And no, maybe we can't read everything. Or can we? If we slow down and take enough time and practice, perhaps we can. But it is important to remember that we're always reading. Recently I said to someone, I don't do readings anymore. Well, that doesn't mean that I don't read charts every day. I read charts every day for my clients in my therapy practice. I read my students' charts. I read my own chart. I read my husband's chart, my daughter's chart. I read charts. But beyond that, I'm reading life. I'm reading the symbols that are present, the synchronicities that happen, the messages that are coming through in whatever way they come through. Yes, sometimes it's our dreams. Yes, sometimes it's an encounter with an animal. Yes, sometimes it's a synchronicity. Yes, sometimes it's something we read in a book or we hear in a podcast or a tarot spread or an oracle deck. Messages are always coming through. And within that, we're finding our voice. I think becoming an astrologer is about finding our voice. I don't know how one can read without then also discovering one's voice and the lifelong evolution of your voice becoming more and more you, or more and more authentic. I think that's one of the greatest gifts of reading is our voice. And our voice gets to be expressed in so many different ways, through speaking, through writing, through painting, through dancing, through drumming, through playing music. There are an infinite number of ways to express our voice in this life. But have no doubt that your voice will now be unlocked forever because of the act of reading and the act of interpreting. A really good reading is like a really good interpreter when you go to a foreign country. I remember when I was in Beijing teaching astrology, and I had the great fortune of having the best interpreter I've ever come across. She truly interpreted the essence of what I was saying. I would speak a sentence and then she would interpret it to the room. And I could tell by the way the room was responding that she was interpreting what I was saying, the essence of what I was saying. And if it wasn't for her, I would not have been understood. I would not have been able to teach and to connect. A really good astrology reading is like being a really good interpreter. Someone who can read the symbols and the signs and give it to the other person in language that they can understand, that translates the essence of the meaning of what we're seeing. Because every person is going to come in with their own frame of reference. And when we listen deeply to what they're saying, we can hear the language that they will most understand, the metaphors and analogies to use. And we can hear their unconscious leading us and showing us what exactly it is they're needing to hear that day to remember who they uniquely are, to have the courage and compassion to live the life that they're meant to live, that they want to live, that they desire to live, that maybe they have been either conditioned not to, have self-doubt, have forgotten who they are, have seen themselves through a distorted lens, as so many of us have. I'm waking up to new truths about myself and my life every single day. And I have the great privilege of knowing astrology and therapy and the use of practices that expand my consciousness. What a privilege. And I too am learning things about myself every single day. So we need each other to remember who we are. And that's why an astrology reading, a really good one, helps us remember who we are. When I say readings can change the course of our life, the very first time I had my chart read, It changed the course of my entire life. I became an astrologer because of that moment. I'm here today because of that moment. I felt so seen in that moment for what was going on in my life that it gave me the courage to put everything down and pursue truth. And in that pursuit of truth, I pursued astrology. I was 20 years old. And that moment felt like a homecoming. Like I had prayed my whole life for that moment because finally things made sense. Yes, okay, what was said in the reading made sense of me. But if it was possible to look at the position of the planets in that moment in time, relative to where they were when I was born, and give me that level of truth about what was going on in my life so accurately, then I wanted to pursue the thing that was able to do that. But more than that, than learning the astrology itself, the technical side, the technique, the discipline of it, it was the fact that we live in a universe where that is taking place. That was what I had been searching for my whole life. I knew by the time I was 5 years old that there was more going on here than what I was being told, and that what we were seeing and what I was learning in school, I felt it in my bones. I knew it in my being. I knew it in my soul. There was just no way we could live in such a magical place as Earth and have this experience of being human without there being creation, the divine who created us, and that we were here for a reason, that it was genuinely meaningful and purposeful and filled with intent, not some random accident, not some meaningless thing. And the fact that astrology works was the thing that I needed to affirm that deep spiritual knowing that I had since being a young child, but that I couldn't find anywhere that was satisfactory enough for me. I couldn't find it in religion. I couldn't find it in meditation. I couldn't find it in yoga. I couldn't find it in even psychedelics. I did encounter the divine in my psychedelic experiences. I did awaken to my own inner divinity. But yet it still wasn't enough. The astrology was like the physical hard proof, actually the material proof that I was needing to see. And so that is why it's my cosmology and my metaphysics. And that is why I do my best to live in a world, a cosmological world that is astrological. That doesn't mean that astrology is the end-all be-all. It just means that the fact that the movement of the planets shows us the movement of our souls through time and space, and the quality of our relationships with one another, and the quality of our relationship with this moment in time and with the divine and the unfolding of our psyches, and our karma and our dharma and our strengths and our challenges, and the timing, the exquisite, meaningful timing of things. It's all of that that is the cosmology I do my best to wake up to every day and choose to live in and participate in. Yes, it is a spiritual world that is imbued with so much meaning and purpose and intelligence. But within that, a really good reading affirms our humanity. Yes, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but because we're having a human experience, it's so important to affirm our humanity, to have empathy for what it's like to be human. And a really good reading does that. It takes whatever the client is presenting in their life and says, yes, that makes sense. Here's how I understand what you're saying. Here's what I know about what you're saying. And here's what I know is possible about what you're saying. So I'm both going to affirm you and help you remember who you are, but I'm also going to help open the world and make it a little bit bigger. Because I think all of us need help growing our imaginations and imagining what could be possible and what we could do. I think we all need help in seeing how our lives could be better, less painful, less suffering, with more ease. And a lot of times that is by removing unnecessary suffering, by normalizing our experience. Because so many of us judge ourselves for what we're going through, or judge ourselves for who we are, or judge ourselves for what we've gone through. And it just takes one person saying, no, that makes a lot of sense, what you're saying. I understand why you feel the way you do. I understand why you're going through what you're going through. It's okay. You're human. You're a human being. Yeah, getting angry makes sense. Yes, envy makes sense. Yes, your grief makes sense. No, there's no timestamp on that. Oh, we're here again? We're talking about mom again? Yep, that makes sense. Because that's being human. And I don't know about you, but I don't ever remember getting a formal training on being human. Did you? It's like the biggest elephant in the room. It's the one thing that we for sure all share is being human beings. And yet I don't ever remember getting a formal training on it. Yes, this is what emotions and feelings are. Yes, this is what happens in relationship. This is healthy relationship. This is how we treat one another. This is psychological understanding. This is the way that psyche works. This is the way the mind works. This is the way the brain works. This is the way our nervous system works. This is how we self-regulate. This is how we soothe ourselves. This is how we are in touch with our intuition and our instinct. This is how we live in our bodies. This is how we know when something's a yes. This is how we know when something's a no. I could go on and on. Not to mention that we didn't have a formal training in astrology, in how the planets work, how the signs and houses work, or a formal training on, you name it, reincarnation, metaphysics. Like, we have to read about Hogwarts or watch Wednesday to get even a glimmer of what something could be if we didn't live in solely the world of normies and neurotypicals. You want to talk about inclusivity? Can we please start including our humanity in our formal education? Can we start including our spirituality? And by that I mean that we are meaning-making creatures living in an intelligible, meaningful universe, and that there are ways for us to have genuine connection with that, with source, with the divine, that is not only our birthright as humans, but gives us a sense of purpose by being connected to something larger than ourselves, which will probably be the antidote to us living in such an egotistical world and a civilization and an economy and a government and a social structure that is built off of egoic consciousness. A really good in a person's spiritual being. A really good astrology reading can awaken a person's soul. A really good reading can turn someone on to astrology, not just for self-knowledge, yes, of course, but to be connected to this meaningful cosmos. That's what a really good reading can do. I've gotten to a point in my vocation 15 years in at the Saturn opposition of starting in 2007 with astrology to be able to be afforded the privilege of sitting here and getting the opportunity to reflect on my career and to reflect on the privilege of reading for all different kinds of people that I've read for. This is the peak moment in my career thus far where I'm at a place now that I get to teach other people how to do what I do. It is so special for me to have arrived at this point that you genuinely care to know, and that I get the immense honor to share what it is that I know, what I've seen, what's been given to me. And I want to help train the next generation of astrologers and therapists. And I want us to be better humans. And to be better humans means to be better astrologers and to give better readings if we are astrologers or if we read. So with my upcoming masterclass on how to read a birth chart in Archetypal Astrology, which begins on November 11th, the live version is now full, but you can still take it live in the sense that you can have the recorded versions in real time if you'd like, or any time in the future if you're listening to this later down the road. And we are going to dive so deep into how to give readings and what's actually going on in a session. And I'm going to demonstrate 3 different ways to read a birth chart: a systematic approach, a divinatory approach, and an oracular approach. Or the divinatory approach I'm now calling like a therapeutic approach. And in my psychotherapy practice for the past several years, I've been training therapists on how to bring astrology into their practice. And it's cutting edge. It's so exciting. I'm so exhilarated by this work. It's such a beautiful intersection. And when I took my original vow to pursue truth, that led me to astrology. My intention when I discovered astrology and psychotherapy was to integrate and synthesize the 2 fields and bring them back together again. I think they had to be separated for a time, and now I think more than ever they're ready to come back together. And I see people doing this every day, and it's so exciting to watch humanity wake up to this dimension of psyche. I love teaching. I love being with people. I love answering really hard questions. And I think in a really good reading, we're doing that. We're answering really hard questions. And we are doing a certain level of teaching, and we're modeling. We're modeling. I know that my mentors do that for me. And I think that in a reading, we can take on the mentor archetype. And we lead by example. And I think that really good astrologers live really beautiful lives, rich lives, meaningful lives, joyful lives, lives filled with love and connection, because that's what this is all about. And I think every single one of us human beings need people in our lives to do that. We need each other in community. I know that I wouldn't be able to read as well as I do if it wasn't for my community, if it wasn't for all of the conversations that I've gotten to have over the last 15 years, if it wasn't for the dialogues and the back and forth and asking one another lots of questions, reading charts for one another, spending time one-on-one or in group, looking at each other's charts and talking about it, sharing, using it as a tool for reflection and learning and growth. It's so important that this language of astrology is shared in community and in dialogue. I would absolutely love for you to become a part of my beloved community if you're not already here at Trust Psyche. Thank you so much for being here with me, for the privilege of getting to share my thoughts, and you taking your precious time to listen and receive what I'm saying. If you'd like to be part of the masterclass now or in the future, go to trustpsyche.com/astrology courses. You can also sign up there with your email to get all my latest astrology videos, podcasts, and my newsletter. You can see that there on the homepage. And I always love to hear from you. So leave a comment. Come follow me on YouTube and on my Instagram at trust.psyche. I'm Jessica DiRuzza, and it's always a privilege and honor to be here with you. Thank you so much. Sending you all so much love and blessings. May something miraculous happen for you today.
We are dreamed into existence. What we do with that dream is up to us. How we dream is as important as what we dream, for the what of the dream knows itself through the how.